Hello everybody, welcome back to Bramski Vlogs. Hope you are doing well wherever you are around the world. Very excited for today's video because we're going to be trialing something a little bit different. Given the times that we're in at the moment, and for some of us it's a bit hard to reach the slopes, I thought it would be a good idea to connect with some like-minded snow sports enthusiasts. People who either work in the industry or just simply love being on the mountains. And today I'm delighted to bring with you a guest who's going to come on, talk to us a little bit about what he does within the industry. We're also then going to share our passions for certain areas across the European mountains. And of course, we'll probably talk a little bit about COVID as we are. But without further ado, I'm delighted to bring in Andy Rose from Snow Camps Europe. Andy, thanks very much for joining us.
Hi, Matt. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very, very well. Thanks, mate. Missing the mountains.
Good stuff. You're not missing a great deal at the moment, I can tell you. The views are great, but that's about it.
So where are you based at the moment then?
So I'm currently in Kaprun. I'm based in Kaprun. I've been here for 8 years now, although I am spending a little bit of time in between Kaprun and elsewhere at the moment as our season, which started middle of October, suddenly stopped again around a week ago. So I'm making the most of the free time again during what is now our second lockdown here in Austria.
Well, I'm sure we're going to get on to the lockdown stuff and what it means for the ski industry in the short term and the long term. But if you wouldn't mind, just tell the viewers a little bit about your background and what it is that you do.
Okay, so first and foremost, I'm a ski teacher here in Kaprun. I work for a ski school, but I also run a business within that ski school, which is called Snow Camps Europe. And Snow Camps Europe is predominantly or primarily three different things. The first thing is we organize ski camps here in Kaprun. Most of them are for specific needs or reasons. So we run technical ski camps for people who are looking to take their skiing to the next level, focusing on kind of race carving, short turns, high performance skiing, entering into the variable terrain, mogul camps. And then we also run camps which are dedicated to people who have got a fear, whether that is a fear that's become due to an accident or whether they are just very nervous about learning to ski due to age or work commitments back home. And we do a couple of other different camps and things. We do what we call our Explorer camp, where we can ski 5 different resorts in a week. And then the second thing Snow Camps Europe is it's basically a booking platform. People who don't want to take part in a camp, but they do want to come and ski in Kaprun, they can book their lessons and their rental through us, and we offer a discount to those people on what they would normally pay here in Kaprun. And then the third piece is a free service that we offer here in Kaprun, which is a free in-resort service. And that is basically, if you think of a holiday rep, and obviously you've been a rep yourself, Matt, think of what a holiday rep does in resort, then we offer that plus a little bit more. And it's free to anybody traveling to Kaprun or LMZ, no matter who they travel with, whether they're a Snow Camps Europe guest or not. They are more than, we are more than happy for them to contact us, whether it be pre-departure, whilst they're in resort, questions, help with literally anything and everything, finding the out-of-hours doctors, finding a pharmacy on a Sunday that's going to be open. They lose their skis on the mountain, they need to report it to the police. If they need to get to the hospital urgently, if their flight gets cancelled, they need somewhere to stay. Where can they buy a bunch of flowers and a birthday cake in Kaprun, or literally anything and everything that they might need that they can't find themselves easily. So I say not dissimilar to a typical holiday rep service, but a little bit more wider scope. And that's basically the three things that snow camps do. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, really. I'm a ski teacher who also owns a ski-related business, actually.
Brilliant. That sounds like you're kind of living the dream there. You love skiing and you get to have the mountains as your home.
Exactly, yeah. And I am here primarily to ski, first and foremost to ski, and therefore I've kind of shaped what I do around spending the most time on the mountains and the most time enjoying what a ski holiday is for everybody else, you know, which, yeah, it works quite well.
So with Snow Camps Europe, do you guys service mainly English clients, or do you cover more from other nationalities, Austrian and sort of the local countries to there also?
It's predominantly UK bias. Most of the guests who come to ski with me on a regular basis were from the UK, and they became the core guests of Snow Camps once we started Snow Camps 3 years ago. However, we do get a good number of Dutch. We've had some Italians, some Americans, but predominantly it is UK based. The audience is UK based. We promote heavily through our Facebook page. And I would say out of the near to 3,000 people that are on there, I would think 2,500 are UK-based or English-speaking people. I was surprised last week. I was doing a live on Facebook, just a quick update on a few things here in Kaprun. And we had Bulgaria, Sarajevo, and I think it was Slovenia, all commented they were watching. So the reach is definitely wider than the UK, but the main consumer and guest at the moment is UK based. Yeah.
Oh, great. So you've obviously said you've based your life around, what it is you do and what you love. Out of curiosity, how did you start in the winter sports industry? How did you get into it?
I first got into it a long time ago, back in 1988, when I worked my first winter season. And that was, I was working for a company called Schools Abroad, which a lot of people of my age, I'm sure, will know if they started skiing with their school, because they were the main ski school operator at the time. And I went out to Upper Austria to work as a ski technician. So I did a course in Kendal, a couple of day course to qualify as a ski tech, which I think you've just done yourself, Matt.
I have, yeah.
I got sent out to this place I'd never heard of in Austria, and I was working for Schools Abroad, but I was working within the ski school's hire shop. And at the time, I had a very low-level, dry ski slope teaching qualification from what was back then the English Ski Council, which is now Snowsports UK, I think is it called. And I started working in the ski hire for the ski school, and literally on the second week of the season, one of the ski teachers fell and very badly broke his upper leg, his femur. And the next day, there was no one to take his group. So I literally got thrown this red and white jacket. And from the director of the ski school basically said, take Stefan's group and don't pick it up. So I took his group, and that resulted in me getting a group every week for the rest of the season. So that was kind of how my first season started with Schools Abroad, and very quickly turned into working for the ski schools as a ski instructor. I then kind of fell out of the industry, albeit I was in and out of the industry. I worked for Ellis Brigham's, who a lot of people will know. I worked for them for a couple of years in their Chester store, and I did some peak week work. And then it was only 8 years ago that I came back to winter sports as a full-time profession.
Blimey, wow. I mean, just on when you said obviously you first entered into the industry, hopefully you can verify this, but everything I've heard, it sounds like the season life back then was like the Wild West. Is that right? Yes.
What went on back then? What's the saying? What happened in Vegas stays in Vegas?
Yeah.
What happened in resorts then stays in the resorts, let's say.
So you don't want to share a secret story then from there?
It was at a time, and sadly these times have gone from what I can see, especially in Austria. It was at a time where ski teachers were seen as gods. Okay. Ski teachers back then pretty much were the best skiers on the mountain. They were the best skiers in the village. And the red and white jacket was like a magnet for the opposite sex. Now, that didn't matter whether you were a male teacher or a female teacher. The jacket worked very well when you were on and off the slopes, let's say. So, yeah, it was, I think hedonistic is probably a good word. But there was lots going on. There was lots going on.
I suppose as a whole, it was a pretty good time to be in the industry anyway, because skiing was going under such a massive boom in the 80s.
Yeah, it was crazy. Obviously, snowboarding was in, albeit it was with stiff bindings and stiff boots. But that was kicking off. But yeah, we're talking like people like Glenn Plake were at the forefront of every ski movie. It was Scott Schmidt and Mike Hattrick, was it? Them kind of guys were the people that we were watching on the TV. Obviously, I think maybe around then or a little bit later, we had Eddie the Eagle to inspire us all. There was lots going on, you know. We were still skiing on the old skinny long skis. Like I'm a small. I say 170. I'm about 169, but I always stick an extra one on. I'm about 169, and I was skiing 203 centimeter slalom skis, which I don't even know how I managed to turn them now, as I ski a 175 kind of short radius thing. So yeah, it was a great time, and the other significant thing was the amount of snow was entirely different. There was so much more snow. Village level where I lived was about 870, and there wasn't a day where the village wasn't full of snow from the moment we got there, I think on about the 18th of December to leaving on the 23rd of April. We never had a time where we thought, oh, there won't be any snow or there won't be enough snow. There were no snow cannons. There were no snow cannons on the mountain. And it's funny because I went back to the mountain 2 years ago, and the only thing that had changed on that mountain was the inclusion of snow cannons. All of the lifts were in the same place. All the lifts were the old lifts. They are getting a new gondola system in the next couple of years. But nothing had changed other than snow cannons. You know?
That is one of the starting things you notice now. I mean, even at some of the higher resorts, simply how large the snowmaking network is now because of the demand to have snow guaranteed for the start of the season.
Yeah, even on the glacier, and the ski area, the glacier is predominantly between 2,000 and 3,000 meters, and we've got cannons all over the place, you know. And you'll find, and we had this in October, even though the snow that had naturally fallen was ample, the moment they can make snow, they will make as much snow as they possibly can just to ensure the season runs. Obviously, we're not making snow lower down yet. That normally starts, I'll say, second week in December, maybe the start of December if the conditions are right. So we've got a couple more weeks to wait for that. But the moment they can use the cannons are going hell for leather, whenever they can, really, you know. And it's quite often down in Kaprun now. We don't get village snow until Christmas, New Year. We've had village snow already this year, but it's come and gone, obviously. I think it came in September. But we've had New Year's days where we've been skiing a white strip of man-made snow through a green field in the village, you know. So it's scary the amount of snow we don't get versus what we did get. However, I find that the weather patterns are very similar. So so this day last year we had something like 40 centimeters of snow, and there was 1.5 meters forecast for the following week.
Right.
We had any snow this week. However, on Monday it's going to snow something like 17 centimeters, and then the rest of the week it's going to snow 7, 5, 4, 15, 20. So again, it's not that dissimilar, even though I say we get nowhere near as much snow as we used to get. When the snow comes, it seems to be almost within a day or two every year. Yeah.
I mean, obviously now, take out the current situation with coronavirus. Most people right now are, you know, if you're in the UK, it's getting dark late in the office and you're bored, and you're probably going on to the Bergflex or the resort webcams, and you're trying to look at the forecast for the next few weeks, and you're going to start seeing these snowfalls arriving at the end of November, and you're hoping that it's going to be a good season. I mean, just to go back a bit actually on the snow cannons, and this is something that I've found out quite recently, and I don't think enough people know about them, is actually the environmental effect that the snow cannons actually have on the land and on the pistes. I think probably to a lot of regular skiers, they just think, oh, it's just like normal snow. At the end of the season, it melts and it just runs off into the systems and gets recycled again back into the lakes. But it was a DW documentary that's free to watch on YouTube, and I think it was called the effects of skiing on climate change. And one of they focused one of the areas actually. They picked Austria, and with this extensive snow cannon network all the way high up close to the glacier, and what it actually did to the fertility of the pastures and the actual composition of what you found on the hill there, it gradually just wore it away, and there was less greenery and more just grit and muck, really.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think there's a couple of things that people who don't necessarily live or work in the industry don't understand about snow cannons. And one is the environmental effect. They are obviously very environmentally unfriendly, albeit resorts are trying to balance that out by self-filling reservoirs, recycling water. In Austria, we're not allowed to put chemicals into the water to help it freeze. It has to just be water because it does end up back in the streams, the rivers and the lakes. But a couple of things that people don't realize, and you see a lot of talk about this on YouTube and Facebook, is people saying, oh, well, go to this resort because they've got thousands of snow cannons. Well, it doesn't matter how many snow cannons you've got. If the weather conditions aren't right, you can't turn on a snow cannon and make snow. The humidity has to be within a certain window and the temperature has to be within a certain window, or the machine is just going to pump out water. And a lot of people don't realize that, and they book holidays on they've got a massive snow cannon coverage, but if they can't turn them on in the right conditions, you're still not going to have snow in your early season holiday. And then the other thing that people don't realize, and again, this is predominantly in Austria, but I would think it's replicated everywhere, is they have to turn the cannons off, or they cannot use them after a particular date, which is normally around the start of February, end of January, February. And that's because they have to ensure that they can hand the mountains back to the farmers, and the snow that's on there will be gone in time for the farmers to start the spring season. Now, the moment the mountains close, they go up and they churn the snow to aerate it, so it melts a lot faster. But obviously, natural snow can continue to fall. There's nothing they can do about that. But you can only make snow up until a certain date, and then it has to stop. And this is why people will go on ski holidays and they'll be like, there's 50 snow cannons all lined up in nice, neat rows on the side of the piece. Why aren't they using them? Because they can't use them anymore, So
that's fascinating. I did not know that.
Well, it took me the question of why aren't they making snow? Why are the snow cannons lined up to find this out? But I think it's something, and as I say, the big misconception that they've got snow cannons, you're going to get snow. If the conditions aren't right, you're not going to get snow, because they can't just make it. If it's 10 degrees, they can't make snow. It has to be the right temperature, and there's almost like I'm not very good with graphs, but there's almost an axis of where the humidity needs to be. What does help nowadays is a lot of the machines are intelligent machines, and they can be operated from a different country if needed over the internet, and therefore they can also just start and stop. So they have sensors that sense the temperature and humidity, and the minute it's in the right window, boom, they turn themselves on and they make snow, and then they'll just stop if the humidity changes or the temperature changes, or if they are manually turned off. But yeah.
That's an incredible level of some of the technologies that you have now within the industry are just crazy. But I guess at the same time as well, the people who have been around the resorts might sometimes look to the normal weather and maybe the odd supernatural sign. Do you have anything that you use to sort of say whether it's going to be a good snowy winter, or?
We're all predicting this one's going to be absolutely epic because it just sod's law, and it started very, very well. Although, as I say, for about a week or so we haven't had any snow, but it's about to come again. But no, I have a couple of things. If I'm on a chairlift and the birds are flying around and making a lot of noise, I always see that as an indication as there's some snow on its way. Obviously, I look at the forecasts and I listen to what people say, but yeah, other than that, I don't have any seaweed on my balcony. But it's funny. You can kind of tell when it's about to do it. You get used to I've got a dog, so I got the dog twice a day, and I go out in the morning and I'm like, geez, it's cold. And then like half an hour later, all of a sudden you see a load of clouds, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go. But yeah, no. I just look at the reports like everyone else. One thing I will say though, which is probably useful for a lot of people, is another thing we do at Snow Camps is we post on our YouTube channel a weekly snow report, which we just done 3 weeks of. We do it every Wednesday, and then we've stopped because we're not on the hill. But as soon as we can get back on the mountain, then we will continue to post the snow reports from Kaprun and ZLMZ once a week. They're normally up around about mid-afternoon, early evening on a Wednesday. So if anyone is heading out here on holiday and they want the most up-to-date report, have a look at that. And then you can always ask in the comments, is there any snow coming in the coming days and things like that. We do a comparison of the snow levels of last year and this year, and we also give a 5-day forecast, albeit it's not my forecast, it's from somewhere else.
Well, I'll be sure to put some links to your videos and your channel in this here. I mean, before we probably talk about Austria, actually, let's just touch on, I guess, sort of social media and YouTube, because this is kind of how we've sort of connected. I've watched your few videos, and I think the first time we interacted actually was maybe when you commented on a video I did a couple of seasons ago about snow safety. Admittedly, with my limited knowledge, and obviously being a ski instructor here was able to put me in my place, but the video did quite well, so I think that's all that matters.
It was a good video, except for that one slight inaccuracy.
Yeah,
that was good. It was good.
But I mean, how have you found? I mean, obviously Facebook, you guys say you use for your business, but from a personal perspective with YouTube, how have you found that as a platform in connection with your passion for snow sports?
Okay, so obviously there's a lot of snow related or snow sports related stuff on YouTube, a massive amount. Some of it is absolutely fantastic. Some of it is pretty average. And what I wanted to do with what I put out there is I wanted it not to necessarily focus on this is how you ski, because there is so much of that. Now we have got 5 or 6 very short 36 videos on some very basic stuff, because I think a skiing channel needs a little bit of that, but I don't go into in-depth into trying to teach people to ski over the internet. There are other people, Darren Turner, go and look at Darren Turner's YouTube videos with the ski app. They are absolutely fantastic. But that kind of isn't the way I wanted to take it. I wanted to be a little bit more information based, so more vlogs. And I also do the Sunday Ski Cast, where I talk to key people within the industry, not dissimilar to what you're doing with your channel now. And also just to give people information about the area, the skiing, and obviously the snow reports. So that's kind of how I use YouTube. And to be honest, it's very hit and miss, I find. I've got some videos that have gone to 14,000 views within days, and I've got others that are sat on 59 after months. And it really does depend on what's in there, and I try and make content that's going to appeal to people who are looking to come to Austria on holiday, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with snow camps or to Kaprun. I talk about other places and other people, and I just try and give people kind of an honest view of things. And it's funny that you'll do one that you'll think, well, that's not the best of videos, and before you know it, it's got hundreds and hundreds of views. And trying to seek out that perfect formula, it is difficult. But I think the channel it does what I say it will do. The snow reports do very well, and the Sunday Ski Casts have done very well. I've interviewed Olympic skiers, other ski teachers. We've had a guy come on and talk about socks, Gordon, which he's going to be back on soon. I didn't know there was so much to a pair of socks. We've had a guy from Scott, Dina Star Lang came on, not Scott, Dina Star Lang Look came on. And we had Colin Martin and Fabian Steeple boot fitters. So that's kind of the YouTube thing. But my main thing is the Facebook page. And the Facebook page has doubled in size since March. So March was when we started talking about COVID, and I started doing a lot more of my lives. I think a lot of people tuned in to see my dog more than me. But they tuned in, so it did the figures no end of good. But it's literally it's doubled, and it's growing at a rapid pace now. And I think that's, again, because I do these lives 2 or 3 times a week normally whilst walking my dog, and I'm just updating people on the season, the snow, what's happening in Kaprun, in Zellamzee, and obviously with COVID updates, which seem to have to be done at the moment. So yeah, but Facebook's our main platform. I dabbled with Twitter, don't really get involved with it much anymore. So it's Facebook, and then I support that with the YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'd agree with you that, I mean, they're both really good platforms to engage with people. And I think certainly now more than ever, snow sports enthusiasts, they're probably looking at those two platforms mainly, probably not really relying too much on what's written out there on sort of news headlines and everything, because it's all over the place. Quite, yeah. Maybe a bit sensationalist at times.
I get very, what is the right word to say? I get very, I'll say upset. I get very upset with some of these ski-related websites that will, as you say, they'll sensationalize a heading, and then you'll read the article and go, "You've not told me anything. You've told me nothing I didn't get from anywhere else." And they're doing it because, yeah, they want you to click on their sales banner for a holiday. They want to keep people coming back to the website until they've got a time where they can actually talk about something sensible. Some of them are so biased to certain resorts, countries, and companies. And as I said, through the Sunday Ski Cast, I could have quite easily just kept it very much Kaprun and Zellamzee centric, but I've had people on from Switzerland, from Italy, with people from all over the industry and competitors.
Yeah.
And I don't see that as a problem. If anything, it's probably a strength to something that we do with our social media. And I would happily answer questions of people who are wanting to visit other places in Austria and other places in Italy and Switzerland, you know. But some of these websites are so biased to certain companies, certain resorts, and certain countries. It's unreal. What they get from it, God only knows, but it must be good.
Well, we've seen in partially due to COVID, but probably just through the general trend, actually, that a lot of the paper, the magazines that used to be the way to sort of get all the latest news and sort of stay up to date with things are slowly starting to fizzle out. So we're probably on the right track for sort of keeping snow sports enthusiasts informed by using the digital platform. Let's move on to Austria now, because obviously you're based in Kaprun and you mentioned Zellamzee as well. I haven't yet asked you, how did you end up in Kaprun and for sort of setting up your business? You know, what made you choose there?
It's a funny one, Matt, because I needed to requalify as a ski teacher, and I'd been looking at going back into the BASI system, and I'd been on Google, and I found a website from a company called the Ski Instructor Academy, SIA, who are based in Kaprun. And at the time, and I'm sure they won't mind me saying this, at the time the website wasn't as slick as it is now. And I'd spoken to them over Messenger, and I said, "Listen, I'm interested in your courses because I want to come and have a good time. I want to requalify." And they also gave a job guarantee. Now, when I first got my job with Schools Abroad, I was extremely lucky to get that job at the time. And I thought it was going to still be quite difficult to get a job in resort. So I thought, if these guys can get me a job, then I'll do their course for the job guarantee. And what happened was I said to them, I said, "Listen, I want to come over to Kaprun and just meet you guys. I wanted to look in their eyes and make sure that they were real, that I wasn't going to lose my money through a website." So I came over in the March with 3 friends on holiday, and I spent 4 or 5 days. I met the 2 owners of the company, or 3 owners of the company at the time, and I skied with one of them for 2 or 3 days. I had a great time. And I said to him, "What's the deal with the jobs?" And he said, "Where do you want to work?" And I went, "I work at Kaprun." And that was kind of it. So I came and did the course, and I stayed and worked in Kaprun. And my intention was to buy a place and to move to Austria. And I just kind of went, well, I'll buy something in Kaprun. And that summer, 2 apartments in the same building came on the same day onto the market. So I flew over, I saw both of them, I bought one, and then I came back. So it was almost by fluke that I ended up in Kaprun. However, in hindsight, things like, obviously our season is very long. Our season can be from October to June. and then we'll close and we'll have a summer ski season, albeit I don't really get involved with the summer ski season. So a very long season was also an attraction. Our proximity to Salzburg and Munich to get in and out of the country easily if you have to. Also, the factor that this area is very much an all year round resort. So we get a very busy summer trade, a very busy winter trade. It does die off in between seasons, but again, that's quite good because you get a little bit of time off. And I know of other resorts, like where I worked my first season, I could have gone back there and worked as a teacher on a much shorter winter, and also then would have had to go somewhere else for the summer because there wouldn't have been as many opportunities. So I actually ended up here by fluke, but there became some very solid reasons for staying, let's say. And then why did I start snow camps here? Again, the long season. We can run camps in the pre-season. We can run camps in the end of the season when everybody else has packed their skis away. We can still be skiing powder in May, you know? So that was the main reason for that.
Sorry, go on.
I was just about to say, although this year is very much, we've got to suck it and see, but for future years, we are looking at taking some of the camps on the road to other resorts. So that is all to come in future updates via Facebook.
I'm sure that people would be interested to know a lot more about that. Obviously, you are in Kaprun. For anyone who's never been to Kaprun, how would you describe it to them?
Oof, okay, so Kaprun's changed a lot in the last 8 years, but Kaprun is, I would class it as a very typical Austrian village. So we have some extremely nice, we have a very nice village. The center of the village is very nice. We have seen a lot more modern buildings being built of recent years, albeit some of them are still in keeping with the Alpine look. Kaprun is one of those places that isn't massively known by the UK tourist, unlike Zell am See, which is massive because Zell am See was one of the first Austrian resorts to go into a holiday brochure when people like Crystal started bringing people out in the early 80s. Kaprun is very much a village, population of 3,000 people. It sits right at the base of the Kitzsteinhorn Glacier, or the Kitzsteinhorn Mountain, which has the Kitzsteinhorn Glacier on it, and then also nestled in between the Imbachhorn, which is a non-skiing mountain, and the Maiskogel, which is our village mountain. So it's right in almost the end of the valley, let's say, and you could say it's tucked away, albeit very accessible to other places. Very, very Austrian. All of the hotels are very traditional. You will get a traditional Austrian service, which is, my opinion, the Austrians know how to do hospitality. You don't find a bad Austrian hotel or pension or B&B. It is their livelihood. They've been doing it for many, many years, and they've been relying on it for many, many years. And therefore, they do it extremely well. It's funny, another thing a lot of people don't know is in Austria, to own or run a hotel, you have to have done a hotel education. Or you can't get a license to run it. It's not like I could rock up and say I want to run a hotel. You had to have gone to school and qualified, which is also a reason why the standards are so high. Not anybody can just open up. In the way of skiing, we're not the biggest skier in Austria. We are linked to Zell am See via bus, and then we are linked from Zell am See to Saubach, Hinterglemm, Leogang, Fieberbrunn, which gives you something like 418 kilometers of skiing, which is one of the biggest areas in Kaprun. But Kaprun itself, no, we are not a massive area. The Maiskogel, in my opinion, is the better of the two mountains to ski on, albeit 3 lifts and several pistes, albeit very good pistes. And then obviously the glacier gives us this very long season. They've spent millions upon millions in the last 4 years on new lifts, new gondolas, a combined gondola heated chairlift. And the main thing is, we say we're guaranteed snow. No one's guaranteed snow. But when you're at 2,000 to 3,000 meters, you're pretty much guaranteed snow. You know, that's kind of it, I would say, in a nutshell.
Well, no, I think you've covered it greatly there. So if anybody's looking for a new a new place to try out, whether they've never been to Austria before or they've been there for years, Kaprun would definitely be one to do. You just touched on one of the things you feel Austria does really well, the hospitality. And I would echo that. I, as a young kid, grew up skiing most of France all my life. And it was by chance, probably as an early teenager, went on a family ski trip to Wagrain within the Ski Armade. And then since then, we've pretty much chosen different locations in Austria every single time. And out of the seasons that I've done, the one in Saar was I think definitely my favorite, partly because I think actually you get the most traditional alpine experience, in my opinion. A lot of the towns have been there years before even any ski lift or big international hotel was there. And actually, a lot of the hotels and the little pensions and arms, they're all run by families who have done it for generations, so that they put all their time and their effort into doing something year after year to make people feel welcome.
Yeah, it's funny because I was, a lot of people know I'm not a great fan of France, and I see France. Some of the resorts in France are, the mountain was there, so they built a village to ski. Where in Austria, there was a village and a mountain, so they went skiing. They didn't purposely build the village because of the mountain. The village was there. And it's a much more traditional alpine environment. And I think you touched on one of this on another one of your videos that I saw when you got to Sol, and it was how friendly the people are.
Yeah.
You can't walk down the street without, well, every single person saying hello, servus Christi, or another greeting. Whether that be a 4 or 5 year old kid walking to school with a backpack that's far too big for them, or an older village pensioner, let's say, going to the shops, every single person will greet you in the street, which I don't think you get in France. No.
And without this turning into a hating France, I think this is what probably a lot of people do feel. Certainly, one of the things that France lacks, particularly by local workers, is the element of customer service. And I think what adds to the experience in Austria is actually, in particular, the food. It's some of the best ever, and it'll be the same if you just go over the border as well to the South Tyrolean Italian side, because they have such strong links there. But generally, the food you have on the mountain is just far better. The beer, you can't. I think the beer is better than any other sort of ski country anywhere else. But one of the things that surprised me actually when I got to Austria was to learn, in terms of the actual percentage of foreign tourists who go to Austria, the Brits are like third or fourth behind the Dutch and the local Benny countries, such as Belgium and then also Germany.
Yeah, it's funny because, again, go back to like 88 and when I skied a lot in the early 90s, 90 to 96, I skied Sol and Chefau a lot. And I skied a couple of other places in France, but mainly here in Austria, the English were the bigger group of tourists. There was obviously the Germans, but I would have said back then it was Germans, English, then the Dutch, then it was the Scandinavian countries, especially around Chefau, Sol, Almo. We had a lot of Swedish guys there, and Norwegians. And then obviously when Austria joined the EU, it all changed. And again, this was something that I noticed massively when I came back 8 years ago. The ski school, there were very few English people. And we had a lot more Romanians and Polish and Czechs and obviously Dutch, loads of Dutch. And we had some Germans. But yeah, it is strange that the English in Austria are no longer one of the bigger groups of tourists in the winter. I think there are resorts where they are probably one or two on the list. But in Kaprun for sure, then the Dutch, then the Germans, and then I would say if you put the Eastern Europeans together, they probably are bigger than the English people we get. And as an example, and you may know this because of your time with Crystal, but if Crystal have got 60 people arriving in Kaprun, they've probably got 500 arriving in Zell.
Yeah.
You know, it's that different. And again, I think that goes back to Zell was so heavily promoted as one of the first Austrian villages for the English and the Irish to come to when the brochures first came out, and packaged ski holidays came about when C&A were selling cheap ski clothing, which enabled a lot more people to enter the ski kind of holiday market. Zellamsee, Schladming, Bad Gastein, Sol for sure, were all these places that the English found out about first, you know. Obviously, the more affluent people have been used to going to your Maribels and your Teens and your Val Thorens and Val d'Isère before package holidays even started.
Yeah.
And a lot of them would drive, but once the package holidays started and they started coming to a place like Austria, yeah, those resorts for sure were full of English people and still are full of English and Irish people. But Kaprun, for some reason, even though we're only down the road, we are not as English-centric. Yeah.
I mean, you tell me if you find this as well, but I actually kind of like that. I kind of actually liked the fact that we weren't like the biggest group of tourists in the country. You know, part of what made it feel, you know, that more sort of true ski season alpine experience was the fact that actually you were among the locals of the area, you know, the people who breathe and work off the land, and, you know, it is their home. So, you know, you kind of knew you were in a foreign place, and you know, you wanted to treat it with respect, and then you actually would, you know, you'd get that in return. So, but you moved on, mentioned the airports briefly. You mentioned, you know, Munich just being over the border in Germany, and then you've got Salzburg. If you're skiing in Western Austria, you've then got Innsbruck. But for anybody who I don't think is, you know, for a lot of the Brits that go to France, for example, you know, a lot of them don't really know how easy it is to access the skiing in Austria. Mm-hmm. You know, you can be at most resorts in Eastern Austria with just an hour to an hour and a half drive from Salzburg. You know, same thing really with Innsbruck, and the distance between Innsbruck and Salzburg airport is only about an hour anyway. Yeah,
again, this is, I think, and this is a thing for me, especially when I used to holiday. One of the reasons I would come to Austria, as well as great hospitality, great beer, great food, and it not being so expensive, was you are in resort very, very quickly. A lot of people favor France for weekend skiing, and they don't realize that you can fly to Austria, land in Salzburg, and within 45 minutes be in places like Wagrain and Flachau. You know, they're literally outside of Salzburg, and you can get from let's say Heathrow or Gatwick to those resorts and be skiing quicker than you'll get to Morzine, where everybody seems to go for their weekend skiing. You know, the other thing is, you say, hour and a half to most resorts from Salzburg, similar in Innsbruck. For some resorts in Innsbruck, even less time. But you've also got, there's resorts down in Kenton and the Klagenfurt airport, I believe Ryanair fly into. And then also for Steyr and for Upper Austria, you've got Linz. There is an airport, which I think one of the budget airlines flies into. So if people are looking at doing things independently, as well as Salzburg, and obviously training it from Munich, the transfer times are probably some of the shortest in most of the countries, I would think. I know if you want to go Andorra, I think you're flying into Barcelona and it's a fair few hours up.
I think I think Andorra, you can even fly into Toulon in the south of France to get there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, some parts of Italy as well aren't too bad. I think if you go south, you do into Turin, it's not too far. But then I've been into Genoa and then gone to Araba. I think that's about 4.5 hours. It's a hideous transfer. But yeah, no, short transfers in Austria. Yeah.
And as I said, you're right. Transfers are very easy to get around. So let's finally talk about the coronavirus and I guess its effect on the industry. We've managed to stay off it for quite a while, but the season in whatever format is fast approaching. You've been in Austria throughout the summer. I just visited it for a short time. How would you say things have gone for Austria through the summer, and what's the latest looking ahead?
Yeah, I think firstly, what we kind of need to say is that yes, this has affected the travel industry and the skiing industry, which we're a part of, but it's also affected a lot of other industries, and there are a lot of people who are in as much, if not more, trouble than we are. But obviously, we went into 15th of March. We were told we were going into lockdown. Within 2 days, everywhere emptied. Everybody left. And it almost went into a in-between season feel in the villages. Obviously, we had the lockdown restrictions. They were very, very strict. Austria are strict about things. If they're going to implement something, then they implement it and you do it, because if you don't do it, you're in trouble. However, it was almost like the end of the season just came 6 weeks early. So we did our 6 weeks lockdown. Was it 6? No, 8, 10-week lockdown. And as I say, it was almost like the in-between season would be. Now, okay, we missed out on the Easter holidays. So we lost a fair bit of money over that time. But then from Easter till the start of the summer, everywhere would have been closed anyway. So in that respect, the feeling wasn't much different than a normal end of season lockdown, let's say. The summer in Austria was actually very, very good. A lot of people comment that Austria was the main spreader of the virus in Europe because of Ischgl and. Our figures were minimal. Our figures were small. The 26th of March was our biggest infection day, around about 1,043, 1,046. And from that day, which was 11 days after we were told we would close, our numbers started to come down, and they came down and down and down and down and down. And we were out of lockdown and fully open again with a couple of restrictions on the 1st of June. Summer was very, very good. We saw a different demographic of tourists. We had a lot more Austrians holiday within Austria. We had a lot more Germans, and then some of the Eastern Europeans ventured in where they could, where the borders allowed them to. We saw very few English because of, obviously, at first you weren't allowed to come into the country. And then you had a 2-week gap where you could. And then at the end of that 2-week gap, the English then imposed a quarantine on returning travel. Our figures were then still very, very good. And the skiing opened. I can't remember exactly what date we opened, but it was middle of October, maybe the end of the second week in October. And we skied October. Or did we even ski in September? I can't remember. We skied early. We skied very early. And then a lot of people were starting to come in to ski. Again, Germans, some Dutch people arrived, some Eastern Europeans. The race teams were in. And all of a sudden, our infection rates just started going through the roof. And they actually have said that in the Salzburgland area, it took them by surprise. And they weren't as prepared for it as they thought they were. As of today, and we're on the 13th of November as we're doing this, we've had our biggest day today. It's 9,400 or so infections.
Wow.
And even though the death rate in Austria is still less than 1,500, or it was when I looked earlier today, which is around 1% of population or just under that, the death rate isn't massive. The infections are now going bonkers. We've had 6,000, 6,500, 7,000, 8,000, 9,500, literally the last 5 days. Upper Austria seems to be the worst. At the moment, I can't remember. Vorarlberg was the second worst today. But literally the whole of the country is red. The whole of the country is classed as a risk area. And we are waiting for tomorrow, Saturday the 14th, to have the next update. And from what we read this morning, we are going into an even stricter lockdown than we are already in. So I am thinking we're going to be going back to a lockdown 1 scenario where they will close all of the shops that aren't essential. We believe they're going to keep schools open, although seniors are being remotely taught, but the kindergartens and the junior schools look like they will stay open. What else they can do other than close all the other shops, I'm not too sure at the moment because everything else is already closed. Gastronomy is closed, tourism is closed, hotels are closed, ski areas are closed, attractions are closed. There's not much else they can close. But we are in a much worse place than we were in March when they closed us down. Hence, all of the unfortunate people who turned up for ski teacher courses a week to 10 days ago, literally were here for 2 days. They all had to go home. Yeah.
What type of support, if any, has there been for sort of businesses within Austria? Do they have like a furlough system like they've done here in the UK?
Yeah, we've got, there's one that's called Kurzarbeit, so short working hours. People have been put on that. This time round, the hotels and gastronomy were told they would get paid 80% of last year's like-for-like sales.
Wow.
If they kept their employees employed. Now, for most of Austria, like-for-like sales in October and November are normally quite low in the ski villages, and most of them are closed. So some of them won't really benefit. But in Kaprun, where we are open normally in November, we have a lot of these ski teacher courses running. Then I know of at least 2 hotels that would have been full, which are empty. And then the other guys would use several different apartment buildings. So hopefully, as I said, the people arrived on Friday. They had to leave by I think the Monday or the Tuesday. So hopefully them accommodations are going to get compensated. But there have been schemes, yeah. And obviously all of the people who were put out of employment, who are employed workers, then obviously all went to what is our version of the dole or the benefits office. And they can't not really give you your entitlement, you know. When so much of the country relies on tourism, when tourism stops, a massive number of people are put out of work.
Yeah. And what is the mood right now, would you say, within sort of ski businesses where you are and sort of in the surrounding region? You know, what are they still trying to be positive and optimistic, or you know, are they seriously worried? Because as you said, you guys, you know, you started being able to ski, and then in response to the increase in cases, you guys have now gone into a lockdown. And as far as I can see, there's not been any sort of alternative measures or a longer term strategy that's going to say we'll do something different the next time there's an increase in cases.
Yeah, well, I don't think people are. They're not panicking yet. A lot of people are very optimistic, but I think a lot of us, and especially the people I speak to, I'm very good friends with most of the bar owners in Kaprun, and I know nearly, I would say 80% of the hoteliers and apartment building owners. And I say optimistic. We believe there'll be a winter, but we just don't know at the moment when that winter will start. And a lot of people think because we got given the 30th of November as the date a week or 2 ago when we went back into lockdown, a lot of people think, oh, well, everyone's going to open again on the 1st of December. And I personally, and a lot of other people in the village, don't think that the ski areas will open where they can on the 1st of December. Obviously, most ski areas don't open until later in December anyway. There are ski areas like the Alberg saying they're going to open on the 17th of December. Well, they are going to if they can. But if they can't, they won't. It'll be very interesting to see what the updated measures are tomorrow. And then let's see when we are going to come out of lockdown. Now, my thought process on this, and I've said live on Facebook, I want to be proven wrong. I want this to be the wrong information, because if it's wrong and we open early, I get to go to work and earn money. And since March, I've basically done 11 weeks of work. which is nowhere near enough to allow me to live. So I want what I'm about to say to be totally wrong. However, my feeling is, given the infection numbers are so high, and given they were so low back in March and we only stayed in lockdown for 10 weeks, I cannot see that we will only stay in lockdown for 4 weeks this time round. So I think we will not be open in December, and we will be hopefully open by around the 9th of January. And my reason for that is, one, the infection rates are so high and they are not going down. The hospitals are overrun. In lockdown 1, the hospitals in Austria did not get overrun and they managed extremely well. Hospitals are now full, okay, in most places. I can't see them opening for Christmas because we will go from 0. So when I say 0, 3,000 people living in Kaprun to, I don't know what we are at capacity, 30,000. Yeah. You're not going to bring in 30,000 people overnight so they can enjoy their Christmas ski holiday. I think that Christmas, maybe the lifts open and the locals can ski, but I don't think there'll be mass tourism. I think mass tourism will be allowed to start around the 9th of January, which is typically the quietest arrival date, the second Saturday after New Year, and we'll gradually build it as the season would gradually build again towards February, and February half term will happen, and then let's see what happens with the infection rates again, because this thing isn't going to go away. And hopefully we can continue to Easter and complete the season. But again, if we open on the 9th of January and we get through to February, for sure we're not going to be as busy as we would normally be. We already know here in Kaprun, the 500 English school kids we would normally get are not going to come in February. So there's going to be a reduced number of people. But if that infection rate goes through the roof again, what are they going to do? They're going to reduce the population of the country to protect the people who live here from a virus that could potentially kill them. My thoughts, and only my thoughts.
Yeah, well, it's not a far-fetched thing. I mean, we've seen the announcement in just the last couple of days, actually, that a number of UK tour operators, have cancelled their December ski holiday bookings. There was a group of 4 of them, I think Ingham's being one of them, Ski Total and yep. 2 others. Crystal have said that they're going to still be doing theirs for December, but you make quite a good point, though, when you think about sort of the current state of affairs, and you think that actually maybe by foregoing international visitors in the Christmas and New Year week, you might stand a better chance of having a less disrupted season, because yep. I personally can't see how certainly some of the smaller resorts, and then of course all the businesses that are dependent on tourists within a ski resort, could survive, or at least they would certainly suffer if you ended up having sort of 2 or 3 new lockdowns throughout the season, because each one would then result in an evacuation or a repatriation of people, and that would just be pandemonium.
Yeah, I'd say that's my thoughts on it, and I want to be proven wrong. I want the infection rates to drop off the edge of a cliff, and we open on the 1st of December. Some of the training courses can get brought back out. We can all start working and have a great winter. But I just personally don't see it. On the English tour operators, I said, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, that I did not believe that they would operate in December. I know that Crystal are still saying they are looking to operate in December, but again, they're looking to. They've also said if it's a country where people have to quarantine on return, they won't operate. If it's a country where people have to quarantine on entry, they won't operate. And if it's a country where the lifts aren't open, they can't operate. So again, I think Crystal put out a statement to say, or TUI put out a statement to say that they are still hoping to operate, which also means there's a chance they won't operate. And I don't believe that they will do December, because if the others are pulling out, then they for sure will also pull out, especially if they can't bring people in. I Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that a lot of people have started to ask in these last few weeks, are we going to be able to get to ski this year? And I think something that has maybe perhaps been forgotten in everything that has been going on in the recent weeks with governments introducing new measures is actually how throughout the summer, a lot of the international travel networks were basically pushed to one side and fell apart. If you are going to be able to by definition, by technicality, go on a holiday this year, there's got to be flights or there's got to be trains, and you've got to be able to drive across one country, perhaps even two. And I from what I've seen, I don't think there's been a lot of work on that at all. It seems like it's sort of been left, and they've not wanted to touch any testing at airports really. Although I know Austria in particular were quite good at that during the summer with the testing kits starting at Vienna airports.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned how Austria did as a country throughout the summer. Ischgl was an isolated incident. It's unfortunate just how much attention it's gotten in the mainstream media and the picture that's painted. But I think the biggest outbreak within ski resorts was Italy. That they had massive ones. Generally, the rest of Austria was fine. What Austria did really well, I found, was actually the data that they provided freely online for you to be able to actually track areas and see how things were. I could see everything from how many have been infected in this state of Austria, how many people had been cured, how many people had sadly lost their lives, and it was very detailed.
Yeah.
So I think Austria as a whole had handled it quite well, and hopefully the measures that they are taking right now will bring good fruits for the months to come.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. This wave, the second wave, was always going to come. The fact that this second wave is so big compared to the first wave, I think like we said, they got on top of it very, very quickly. But also there has been some farcical incidents over the last few weeks. There was a group of people that had a wedding that shouldn't have taken place, where two big families got together and that just spread the virus to two villages and it just ripped through there. We had an incident a couple of weeks ago where in Salzburg, the bars had to close at 10, but in Schladming, they were allowed to stay until 1. So a load of people took taxis from Salzburg to go and party in Schladming, and now Schladming is overrun with COVID. And there was another incident which has slipped my mind. But yeah, there's been some very stupid behaviour which has not helped us in this second wave. And I do understand that people want to be able to get on and live their lives normally, don't we all? Yeah. Did we ever see anything like this ever come in and do what it's done to us? But yeah, it's just, party tourists from Salzburg going to Schladming. Could you believe it?
Yeah. Listen, we've almost got to wrap it up now, but I guess sort of the one final thing I would say from the experience that I had in Austria just a few weeks ago was actually that it felt incredibly safe to me whilst being out there. We did use public transport. We was on the gondolas with other people, and there was very visible and the guidelines which were all followed about when to wear masks. Lots of hand sanitizer. A lot of the shops are very, very spacious anyway, and people were very, very respectful and calm. So, if things do open up to international tourists, then I think it's a very safe place to go visit. So I guess I just want to say thanks very much for coming on, Andy. I don't know if there's any sort of final things you want to say about Snow Camps Europe and Kaprun.
As I said earlier, if anyone is coming over to Kaprun's LMZ, our free and resort services there, whether you use that via Facebook, via email, via text message, or when you're in resort, you hunt me down. But please use it. It's a free service that we offer. Equally, if anyone's interested in the camps or the private lessons, then just drop us a message. But yeah, if you've never been to Kaprun, take a look at the holiday brochures, look at the websites. It is a great place. As I said, we've got the glacier, we've got the Maiskogel Village Mountain, and we are linked to Zellamsee and all of the other places. So we have a massive ski area you can access on one lift pass. But yeah, wherever you go skiing, just make sure you have a fantastic time. If you haven't had a lesson for a while, then take one. You'll be amazed with what you will pick up. And whatever this winter does throw at us, for sure we will be back in better times in the coming years, no doubt. So hopefully we will see everybody out here at some point.
Where can people find you online?
So website is snowcampseu.com. And then if you just put Snow Camps Europe into either YouTube or Facebook, then you'll find us. And I say, more than happy to answer emails and questions about anything ski related and other resorts in and around Austria and Europe, to be honest.
Andy, listen, thanks very much for coming on today. And hopefully, if I do get out to Austria, I will meet up for a beer and a ski.
Cheers, Matt. You can pay the bill.
So that was Andy Rose from Snow Camps Europe. Really wide-ranging discussions there. He came on to tell us a bit about, his background, his love for skiing, and how he got involved into the industry and the career that he's now brought up. We also got to talk a little bit about the season lifestyle of the past. And then going on to talk extensively about our love of Austria. He took the time to tell us quite a bit about Kaprun, where he's based, and how much of an appealing destination that is. And then, of course, we went over the current situation with the coronavirus. So, yeah, really, really detailed talk. And thank you very much to all of those who've taken the time to watch this video today. If you've enjoyed watching it, please make sure to hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel. We'd love to hear from you as well, so be free to put any comments in the section below. But until later, guys, take care, and I will see you next time.